Hello and welcome to this episode of Journey to Virtuous. I am excited today to have my sister with us, Miss Analyn Scott, intercessor, entrepreneur, mom, wife, just all around virtuous woman. I'm excited to have you here with us today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
This has been we met almost 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a rapid fire 2 years for kingdom building business. And you and I have taken a roller coaster ride together with a lot of this work that I'm doing here on the campus and a lot of what you're doing with your nonprofits and for-profits, because you've got a lot of businesses in your coffers as well. But I have you here with us today because I wanted to focus on the importance of us being healthy, mind, body, and spirit, as we are answering the call to build kingdom business. And so your testimony stands out for me because of the journey that you've been on, what you've shared with me, from your marriage to the building of your ministries and even to the service and support of your children. So I wanted to ask you today to share with us your story about how you answered the call to do kingdom-focused business, and also specifically about 1 and 9.
Whew, it's loaded because I can go back to different points in my life. Mm-hmm. If I was to really go back, God will always give us clues, right? He's going to give us breadcrumbs,
right,
that we can choose to follow. And so I had glimpses and clues of, I always knew I was going to be a businesswoman.
Okay.
So I knew even as a teenager, I had a glimpse into entrepreneurship at the age of 16.
Okay.
And I saw people that had time and financial freedom and were able to do things that they were passionate about. Mm-hmm. And that was that glimpse for me. And I said, I can see that for myself. At one point, I think I've shared with you, I thought I was going to be maybe a civil rights lawyer. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, that's not it. And because there's a lot of schooling and a lot of reading, I was like, I can still keep the fight and don't have to be a lawyer. Right. But I always had a passion for people. And I always knew that whatever capacity I'd be a businesswoman, that I would be able to have the time and financial freedom to be able to pour into whatever was on my heart, like whatever, I was passionate about, that was going to make a difference in the lives of others. And so fast forward, I went into the corporate world and did that for many years. In fact, I was in IT sales for about 14 years, successful career. 2014 was a pivotal moment for me, where I was obedient and I did answer the call, but the call didn't come, with this big loud knock, but it was these whispers and different. Actually, God did kind of knock me upside the head a couple of times, but with some clues, because to anyone else, it was like, oh, you've got a great job, you've got a 6-figure income, and I'm the main breadwinner, and have 2 kids, and have the stability with all of that, and had my best year yet, doubled what I had made the year before. And yet there were different clues and different things that were happening. And it was like every time I would go into the office, at this point, I was able to work from home 4 days a week to do my husband's dialysis treatments.
Okay.
That one day a week that I was going into the office, it was like sucking my soul out. And this was something, Shawn, like if you would have asked me at the beginning of 2014, I would have told you I was a lifer. Like that was my career. Mm-hmm. And so I was just getting these nudges, and Bishop T.D. Jakes had written his book, Instinct. Okay. And it was like he was speaking right to me. He was on Oprah's Life Class, and I'm having church. I'm like, yes, yes. My poor husband was like tied to his, tethered to his dialysis machine. He's like, this message must be for you, because it's not hitting me the way it's hitting you. Mm-hmm. But it was, again, just speaking I had this stirring in my belly that there was more.
Yes.
And so fast forward to the summer of 2014, and God gave me a vision that was so big. It was as clear as me looking at you today. Mm-hmm. And in that vision, my family was there, but outside of that were just silhouettes of people as far as the eye could see. Couldn't make out their faces, but millions of people. And the answer, I mean, I heard it. It was, in my soul, in my spirit, but I heard, we've been waiting for you. And what do you do? I was just like,
right. What did you do?
I was obedient. And so I prayed on it, right? Because people can take that all different kinds of ways. But I knew that was my time. I needed to draw a line in the sand. God was telling me it was time for me that I had to leave that chapter for a new chapter to begin. Now, he didn't go through and say, I'm going to have you start a nonprofit organization and these other businesses and a production company and film a documentary. No.
Right.
But I knew that in order for that new chapter to start, this one did have to end. And so I talked to my husband.
Okay.
And he was like, babe, whatever you set your mind to, you're going to do. And I fully back you in whatever you want to do. I said, well, we're going to go to Italy in October, but when we get back, I'm going to put in my notice. And he said, great.
Is that not just a blessing that so many of us, especially women in business, do not have? The blessing of having a mate who will cover us, not be intimidated by the great thing that God has called us to do, but make space in our lives, in our marriage, to be able to do this work. That is a phenomenal blessing that I do not take for granted at all. And for those of you who don't have that, just the privilege of having a spouse who understands the call on your life that God has placed on you, even when you're not quite ready to answer the call, it is such a blessing. That was one of the greatest markers for me that just continued to affirm the love relationship that God created between me and my husband, because we had both come from a past and divorce and children and being angry about being divorced and all of those things. But when God put us together, we both had a healing journey before we got there. But I know that the work that I'm doing would not be as fruitful as it is if I did not walk in agreement with my spouse. And so I don't take that for granted, nor do I diminish the importance of that. Because even in that great thing that God has you and me and many other people doing, there is still an order in our home. He is still the head of our home, regardless of the finances or the prestige or the visibility that the work may give us. So that is powerful. Thank you for sharing that. But please do continue your journey.
Yeah, but to that point, it takes a strong man
Yes.
to be able to back a strong woman.
Yes, it does.
And God knows exactly what we need. So I see that with you and your husband.
Oh, thank you.
And I am grateful to experience that with me and my husband. That we balance each other out.
Yes.
As you've seen, because there's he takes care of things that I'm not quite so good at. But we love it. Even the things that some of the qualities, I see what God has done so that when we're coming together, the impact that we can have together is so much greater than just us standing alone. And let me just say that's even in society. We need to come together because there's so much more we can do together than just independently. And everyone trying to do the solo thing and trying to do this and just think they could do it all on their own.
That's played out.
It's played out completely.
We're done with that.
Yes, it's all about collaboration, and it's about what can we do to serve, and what can we do to really. I think people are really seeking. When I talked about like that stirring in my belly, it's what's their purpose? What are they really here for? And so I was doing well in my career, but that's not what I was called for. That's not what I was called to do.
It makes a difference.
It makes such a difference. And I'll say, this coming November will be 10 years that I walked away from my corporate job.
Congratulations.
And it's it is not an easy journey, but God had promised me. So God, the Holy Spirit said a few things to me before I left. First and foremost, you do have a choice. You can stay where you're at, but isn't it always like in the butt?
Right.
Life and death are on the line. And I didn't know.
How do you ignore that?
You can't, especially when I was shown all of
Mhm.
those people
Mm-hmm.
and the message. Like
Yes.
God wasn't specific, but he was, but he didn't say exactly. But just we've been waiting. What were they waiting for? That's what I had to walk out to find out for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I left that career, and again, not with a 5-year plan, not with, I've got this strategic plan, I've got this, no, I just walked out like literally on faith, and I don't recommend that to like anybody. But if God's telling you to do that, he's got your back.
Right.
And he had my back. So it wasn't oh, go take this less stressful job. It was like, no. I'm going to work with you and put the things in your hand that I want you to focus on, that I need you to nourish and to take to the world.
Yes. I have learned there's a difference between a good idea and a God idea.
100%.
Because with the good idea, you can write the strategic plan that'll make sense, and you can do that within your means and your intellect and whatever you know. Mm-hmm. But the God idea, unless you're totally dependent on him, it doesn't thrive. So there's definitely a difference.
And he's so strategic, isn't he? So let's back up. He had this planned long before 2014, long before he even put me in my mother's womb. Long before that, knowing that he was going to need someone that was going to come out of the womb disruptive.
Okay.
Right.
In a sweet way.
In a very sweet way.
Yes.
Because it's disruption for positive
right.
good,
right.
for positive change or for the good.
Yes.
Because if I see something that's out of line, that's hurting people,
yes,
it hits me some kind of way.
Yes.
And not that I can tackle everything, but God put that inside of me. Mm-hmm. So God also knew years earlier. So actually, it's 26 years ago. Mm-hmm. Coming up, ironically, this November will be 27 years.
Okay.
My husband and I met on a blind date.
Okay. But even that story is miraculous. So can you share that? I know we're talking about wholeness, mind, body, spirit, but even this, because it positions us for healthy relationship. And your husband's testimony.
Oh, wasn't that something that he shared?
Yes.
So, and you talk about that with spirit, because you have to kind of even come to that. Are you healthy within yourself?
Yes.
So even before we could come together, he had to ask that question. Because he had never been on a blind date. Total surrender.
Yes.
Driving clear across town.
Right.
So this was before, GPS on your phone. He's coming across town and he's like, all right, stop to pump gas. And he's thinking, do I turn around? I've never done, I don't know. Should I just turn back and not go through with this? And he stopped and he said, Lord, I've been doing this on my own and I haven't been doing such a good job. So he prayed about it. He said, if you want me, I surrender. I just put it in your hands. And if you want me to go on this date, that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
And he did. Thank God.
27 years later.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
And here we are. But again, going back to God's plan.
Yes.
And God's plan may not always look rosy. God's plan may have some thorns.
I'm waiting for the first rosy one.
Right.
The may have is very optimistic. I haven't had any part of this journey that started off with bliss. Even the falling in love with my husband, it terrified me. Though I knew he was a gift from God, I wasn't completely convinced of that because of my old wounds. And so our dates were like interrogations. I went with lists of questions because I'm looking for the first wrong thing so I can check him off and move on and continue on this journey. So I thought to just be by myself with my children. But that strict obedience, there are roses that come throughout. But yeah, I think I'm more familiar with the thorns.
Well, he did give me a couple roses, and which was nice because we for that first Valentine's Day that we were together. I told you, now he's from Charleston, South Carolina, so he made me London broil, candied yams, homemade macaroni and cheese, and collard greens. I was like, I already know he's a good man, but he can cook too. That is not one of my gifts and
Okay.
talents
Oh, that's
at
all
all.
right.
And that is all right.
You compliment each other.
We
There it
do.
is.
We do. And yeah, I was about 115 pounds when I met him, but that, that went away too.
That's all right.
But God knew, and I saw his patience. I saw his patience where I could be in sales or doing something that was, business, and he could be patient with that. And I took note of that. That was like, wow, these different characteristics. So 3 months into our dating relationship, a week after his making that Valentine's Day meal for me, his kidneys failed out of the blue, age of 29. I was just 23. And he knew he had high blood pressure, but was taking his medication, but wasn't checking it regularly.
Okay.
So he had this cough that week, and I was already nagging him. I wouldn't even call it nagging because I was concerned. And I said, that doesn't sound right. He was, oh, I'm fine. No, it doesn't sound right. So at the end of the week I'm going to go ahead and go into urgent care and get it checked out. It's probably bronchitis. They'll give me some antibiotics. He called me from the ER. Nurse took his blood pressure, was like, oh, no. Took it 2 more times and ran for the doctor. It was 270 over 190.
Oh, my. By
the time he got by ambulance to the hospital, 300 over 200. And the doctors were like, hello, Mr. Scott. Didn't you have chest pain? How are you even still alive?
Right.
Didn't you have chest pain? You could have had a heart attack. Didn't you have a headache? You could have had a stroke. Nope. Just this cough. So what we've learned, and I'll come back to that moment in the hospital, but we've learned over these over these 26 years, is that all of these are silent killers. They all go hand in hand. So at that time, this is new to us. We know nothing about kidney disease. We know nothing. He thought he was, he's a year out of the military, so he thought he was doing
good.
well.
Yeah.
So this really was a shock to him. So then when the doctor comes in and says, Mr. Scott, we're going to have to take you in for surgery. We're starting you on dialysis tonight. He's like, what's dialysis? And in the back of his mind, he's thinking, how much time do I have to live?
Oh, wow. At 29.
At 29. So when I pick him up from the hospital a week later, driving him back to his place, and he says, I think I'm going to move back to Charleston. I said, why? He said, I know I have a long road ahead of me, and you're too young for this. This isn't fair to you. But see, that's where the other side of me was like, look, you're a good man. You don't need that. You don't need to go. Yes. So,
part.
My mom may have called it something other than headstrong, or determined. But, I saw the good qualities. I said, you're not going anywhere. You're a good man. He said, I hoped that you would say that, but I had to give you an out. And that speaks to his character, too. And here we are. So go back to
here you are.
And here we are. Like
with 1 and 9.
Couldn't have pictured.
Take us there, because that is a pivotal moment in the 1 and 9 story.
So that takes us back to my obedience in 2014. So I left that November. A few months later, we get a call to come to National Kidney Foundation of Arizona's Dancing with the Stars Gala.
Okay.
That's our first exposure to the Kidney Foundation or any kidney organization in those 17 years. That night, Shawn, I was hearing things that, quite frankly, were making me upset. Were stirring that bulldog up in me that I was like, wait a minute. What do you mean 26 million Americans or 1 in 9 adults have kidney disease, yet 90% are walking around have no clue? What do you mean diabetes and high blood pressure are the 2 leading causes? What do you mean African Americans are 4 times more likely than me to have kidney disease? My husband already hit 2 of those factors, and not a peep. And the silence.
And nobody's discussing it.
Nobody's discussing it. That was a wake-up call for me, and it was just jarring that I started asking a lot more questions, and that was really what was the catalyst for us to start 1 and 9. I calmed down, and I was teasing him that evening, and I was looking over and I looked at one of the dancers, like, ha, that could be you next year, laughing.
Oh my goodness.
And then I looked over at him, and he's like, oh crap, I know that look. And sure
She's on a
enough,
mission.
and it came, that was it. And in the process of it, God walked me through, this journey of, oh, we'll do this documentary. And it was like, no, this is bigger than a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
This is our life's purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 in 9 was birthed to change the trajectory of kidney disease and save millions of lives through awareness, prevention, and regenerative medicine.
Okay. That is just, and where's 1 in 9 right now?
We completed that documentary,
Okay.
A Dance with Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
It truly was. And we wrote a book, 1 in 9 Tribe, Kidney Disease Warriors Beating the Drum of Hope and Change.
Mm.
But there's no way we can put everything into one book or into one documentary.
Right.
So we started the 1 in 9 Tribe podcast.
Okay.
We've done a tour across the country, RV tour, and really reaching people, not just here in Arizona, because this is not just, and it's not even a U.S. problem. It's a global epidemic that people don't realize. So we're really pushing to take those assets, to take this awareness globally. So we're going to, my husband won't be going with me, but I'll be going with a team to Kenya later this year, because it's affecting lives. And where I can say, so my husband, when you see him, he does not look like what he's been through. Not at all. Not one bit, not at all. And we want to help people keep their kidneys healthy, and to avoid a journey like this, but also give them hope and let them know that if they do have kidney disease or if they do have kidney failure, it doesn't have to be a death sentence.
We perish for lack of knowledge. That's what the Lord says. And to hear you say that African Americans are 4 times more likely to die from this disease, it stirs something unique that we need to do more with spreading the education and having it come from trusted sources. Raymond has taken the journey. He's survived the journey. He's thriving now on the other side of the journey. So I'm excited to have him and you doing this work of one, but not just the one. We're so many other ventures that your hands are in.
God has put in my hands.
So would you just really quickly give us a rundown of what the other things are, the things that you can share? Because I know it's not always time to share everything.
Right.
So the pieces of work that are part of your journey to virtues, what else can you share with us about what your hands are in right now?
Ooh, it really, the biggest, everything centers around 1 in 9 and that awareness. Everything does. So we're, some partners and I are opening a clinic and going to be, again, addressing these needs, helping with the education, helping with the prevention, early detection. Early detection is huge. In finishing our documentary, I actually wrote, directed, produced it, and God was like, "Yeah, it's time." And He had me start my production company, Shine Light Productions.
Oh my!
Where we exist to shine a light on people and organizations, making a difference in this.
Yes.
So like you, and that are in the trenches, and it is not easy, but it doesn't matter, what somebody's circumstance or situation is. God's been showing me for the last decade, I need my people to shine light brighter than ever before. And I know the difficulty in getting our message out to the world that we're obligated to do.
Yes.
It's not just enough for me to say, I have my husband here. How can I help others keep their husbands here, their spouses, their sons and daughters, their fathers, their mothers? What can we do? And so I know other people have that stirring for whatever it is God has put inside of them to shine that light. And I know how difficult it's been to get that message out. And so I have created a safe, trusted environment where I'm going to help take care of everybody. And so those are the things, but I would like to impart something with I would be remiss if I did not share this with your audience, because it's one of the biggest paradigm shifts I had. Shortly after we started 1 in 9, I was talking to a nephrologist, and I was upset, kind of like, how is this happening? What is going on with this? And so he went back and he's like, there's 5 stages of kidney disease. I didn't even know there were 5 stages of kidney disease because my husband just crashed into dialysis. That is stage 5 is kidney failure.
Okay.
Where you either need dialysis or a transplant to live. Okay. So we hear a lot about transplants, right? You don't really hear about, a lot of people say, I don't know if I really have any family members or friends that I know that have kidney disease. I don't know anyone on dialysis. That's stage 5.
Right.
There's 4 other stages. Most people are not finding out about it until stage 4 or 5. So what this doctor said to me, okay, 26 million Americans. Here's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5. What do you think is happening to the people between stages 3, 5? They're dying. If they make it to dialysis, they're a survivor. So it takes me back to that ER experience with my husband. Mr. Scott, didn't you have chest pain? You could have had a heart attack. Mr. Scott, didn't you have a headache? You could have had a stroke. No, just this cause. How many people do we know in our families, in our communities, thought they were healthy, dropped dead of a stroke or heart attack? Right. How many of those may have had the underlying condition of kidney disease and didn't know it? That was there that could have had their blood pressure was sky high. These all make up a triple threat that we need to individually make sure that we're taking care of our bodies. Mind, body, spirit. We have to take care, because if we don't, how good are we going to be to others and be able to fulfill the purpose that we have?
How effective can we be in answering the call? I don't know if you all caught the fact that Analyn was a young woman in her 20s when she answered the call, but that she answered that call with a husband in kidney failure. So just the phenomenal state that you were in, even as a young woman. So I want to encourage those young women that have been called to do something great. You don't have to wait until the later. You can do it right when God puts the call on your life. And Lynn, I want to thank you for joining us today. I know there's so much more that we can and will talk about in future episodes, but I want to thank you for coming and sharing a piece of your journey to virtuous with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for everything that you are doing as a virtuous woman and setting the bar high and setting the example, because I say it many times in private and in public. You are the real deal.
I love you. Thank you. I love you too. Thank you all for joining us today. I look forward to you joining us again next time on Journey to Virtuous.
Hey everyone, if you'd like to learn more about my personal testimony, check out the book Journey to Virtuous. You can find it on Amazon or in Barnes & Noble. If you want to know more or you want to share more with me about your journey to virtuous, reach out to me in the comments or check me out on Instagram at SMP Virtuous. Again, it's called Journey to Virtuous.